Ladies and gentle gamers, the greenhouse is currently on the alpha server, and although you currently can't actually find a garden lobby, there are some things I can show just from Centauri, and hopefully before I'm done recording those, the garden will open up. So without further ado, subscribe, drop a like, and let's jump into it. So the first big thing to talk about is there are 3 brand new farming collections. These are Moonflower, Wild Rose, and Sunflower. And I do know based on a couple other items that there is actually a Sunflower minion. So that's the first minion that we've gotten in a while. That's just like a full straight up minion. I don't know that it's enough for us to get a new minion slot, but it's at least some new SkyBlock XP from that. Also, there is this brand new Crow pet, which you can find once you get to Moonflower collection level 3. And these collections are crops that you can farm on the garden. You won't be able to get them from just getting garden levels up like the other crops, but once you unlock the greenhouse at garden level 7, you'll unlock these 3 different collections and be able to farm them on regular plots. But the Crow pet lowers the cooldown of your abilities by 3% at common. So this is how the Crow looks at uncommon, slightly stronger on the abilities and the ability damage. And I'd actually have to leave the lobby to go check and see what the higher upgrades are, so we're just going to wait for the rest of that. But before we actually continue the quest line by talking to any of these visitors, I do want to talk about how the melon dicers and just all of the tools here are changed. So you can see now, instead of having a counter, they just have an XP ability on them. So most of my tools are now up to level 40. For some reason, the Newton netherwort hoe didn't quite make it. I think it's probably because most of the netherwort that I did was from catching beetles and not actually using the hoe itself to farm. But for these ones that are level 40, it says overclock required. And for some reason, when I claimed the Jacob's contests earlier, I did get one of these overclocker 3000, which can be applied to farming tools up to 10 times to give them +1 farming level. And yeah, as you can see here, there are unique brackets now for the other crops as well, because you can farm them outside of just the greenhouse. But if we just do /anvil with, say, our melon dicer and put this overclocker on there, it will now go up to level 41, and it actually has enough XP to get all the way up to level 42. But the difference here is interesting because the base melon dicer has 282 melon slice fortune, and once we upgrade it, it'll be up to 286. But there is also a decimal point on it, as well as the farming wisdom, and it's only the melon slice fortune that changes. So it's not based on like regular farming fortune. That part doesn't change. It's only the melon slice fortune that changes, but it is a little better, so we'll just go ahead and claim that. And if we do go ahead and look at our visitor milestones, you can see that offers accepted milestones. Mine should have been maxed, but apparently they didn't load some of mine or something, because it's only counting 702 of all of my total visitors. And as you can see from my Lotus Cloak, I have served more than 11,000, so I don't know why that number is so strange. I think they may have goofed up, and instead of making the milestones increase, like you can see here, this is what the milestones should be. So at the old rates, you maxed out at 10,000 total visitors. At the new rates, you're supposed to max out at 2,500. Maybe they accidentally made it calculate each one plus the next one, so the number would reset to 0 after you hit each milestone. So it'd be like once you get to 1,000 done, you'd start and need 1,100 on the next one. I think that's the bug that's going on here. This is the wrong number. This should be maxed, and it should only take 2,500 visitors to max out your crop milestones now for offers accepted. So hopefully this bug gets fixed. I mean, it definitely will before it comes to main. There's also the unique visitors served, of course, and we can actually go to the visitors logbook and see all of the visitors that we have never had. So a bunch of these here we've actually talked to and they just haven't shown up. And like I said, you can get all of the mayors while they're in office. They only visit when elected as mayor, and they will give you a talisman. So I don't know if they each give you an individual talisman, or once they're all visited then you get a talisman, but if it's an individual talisman from each, that would be pretty insane. But yeah, apparently there's a lot of NPCs that I just have not talked to, so we're gonna have to go out and start talking to some visitors. There's also a Dante goon in here, so there's a little Easter egg for you. But according to the patch notes, among them is a shady businessman that will sell you a special dragon pet. So there is now a dragon pet for farming. First combat, then foraging, and now farming. So I'm not sure which one of these NPCs is considered that shady character. It might be Ludlith here, where you have to serve 100 unique visitors. That makes the most sense to me since he's a special visitor or a mythic visitor, but who knows? But if we look at crop milestones, these have all been nerfed significantly. So again, I think they goofed up the numbers here for the crop milestones, because Potatoes are supposed to max out now at 66 million, and here it's showing 147 million, whereas it used to be 208 million. So all of these crop milestones are supposed to be nerfed by 68%. That is clearly not the case. I'm pretty sure they goofed up their math, so the numbers in this menu are wrong. If you're interested, these are the actual numbers right here. So this is what the crop milestones max at on the main currently, and then this number here is what they should max at once the greenhouse update drops. And here's the actual percentage reduction. So they're all reduced by over 68%, which is actually insane. But we can also go into the SkyMart and see that there's a ton of new things in here. So first off, there's an upgrade now to the Lotus set, the Blossom set, a bit more farming fortune based on your garden visitors served. There's also these chips, which I believe we should learn about here in a little bit. But yes, there's the sunflower minion where you can upgrade it to tier 12. So it does go all the way up to tier 12 now. And there's these hydro cans, which you use in the greenhouse to water your crops. And they go all the way up to Aquamaster Hydro Max. So there's all the way up to legendary. And one of the things required for this is Iridium, which I believe is going to be a drop from one of the new Beastiaries, which we'll talk about here in a second. There's also the plant diagnostics tool, which views the detailed properties of a plant inside the greenhouse. We're going to go ahead and grab one of these because that should come in handy here in a little bit. And then we can check in on the Beastiaries. Most of these Beastiaries, there's 5 of them, are all going to be from shards that are on Galatia already. So there's the praying mantis, the firefly, and the dragonfly. The last 2 are new ones. There's the Time Stalk clone, which is, I don't even know, and Zombuddy. So we'll have to see what these guys are like. Hopefully they will spawn when we get to our greenhouse. Let's just get through the quest line real quick. We'll talk to Jeff here. So he has a bunch of dialogue, and he basically wants us to show him one of our specialized farming tools. So let's show him the melon dicer. So apparently you'll have to upgrade it each time it hits a new large milestone. So for the base melon dicer, it can go up to level 15. Once you upgrade it to Mark 2, then it can go up to level 30. And then once you upgrade it to Mark 3, it can go up to 40, and then you'll need the overclocks to get it all the way up to 50. So once we get through a bit of his dialogue, he gives us this crop shot chip, which gives us farming fortune per chip level. We can go ahead and claim this, and apparently we right click it to redeem it, and we'll need 4 more to unlock the epic upgrade. And then we can look in our skyblock menu, and we should be able to see the manage chips menu. So I have 400 million sawdust, which is just the Forest Whispers equivalent for garden now, and apparently we can upgrade this thing a lot. So let's just level up 1, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's see, it goes all the way up to level 10. So that was a little bit pricey. I think that cost me about 5 million sawdust, but not too bad. Maybe it can go past level 10 once we get 4 more of these crop shot chips. So let's see. If I just bought 4 of them from Centauri, we can just go ahead and claim those. It goes all the way up to epic now, and yeah, it's going to start costing us millions now to increase it. So it gives 40 farming fortune now. I think it was 30 before we upgraded to epic, and we can now get it all the way up to level 10 or level 15 instead of level 10. So that should go up to 60 farming fortune here, but you can see it's costing millions of sawdust every single time we're doing these upgrades. And now I need 16 more to upgrade it to legendary. There's 16. If we look in the menu now, it gives 75 farming fortune instead of the 60 it was before, and it costs 2 million sawdust to level. Goes all the way up to level 20, and that is 100 base farming fortune from crop shot. That did cost me like 25 million sawdust though to get that one maxed out, which is kind of insane. And yeah, it would have been helpful to look at this menu just to see exactly what levels they go to. And we can actually reset our farming chips back to level 1. All right, so these are all the chips. We're just going to redeem them all and see how much it cost me to level them. So we actually only needed 21. I thought we needed a bit more than that. I was mistaken. But 21 of each chip to max it out. And now we have all 10 of them. So Vermin Vaporizer gives bonus pest chance. Synthesis chip makes analyzing a mutation in the crop analyzer give more copper. So that's this thing, I guess, or that's the plant diagnostics tool. I don't know, maybe that's a different thing. Also, you can get farming wisdom, extra farming tool XP. Farming fortune buffs are stronger when they're temporary, more base crops when harvesting in the greenhouse, extra crop fortune for active crops from Jacob's farming contest, the extra farming fortune that we saw earlier, decreased time for visitors to appear when harvesting, and increases the chance to find rare items when breaking crops. Okay, so let's just level all these. I assume leveling each one is going to cost 25 mil, but let's see, if we level this one up to max, that did cost 25 mil. So it's gonna be 25 million sawdust for every single one of these that we level. And I got kicked for clicking too much, I guess. But in total, you should only need 250 million sawdust, which is still a lot, don't get me wrong. But if you maxed all the old crop milestones, then you shouldn't have an issue maxing out all the new stuff. But yeah, if we go into our farming skill, we can still access this. I'm gonna have to wait until I find another lobby to see if we can actually get into the garden again. But yeah, we now have every single one of the perks max, so you can see exactly how strong they are if you want to pause and take a look to see exactly what each goes up to. But it did cost us exactly 250 million sawdust to get all that done, and we still got 150 mil left over. And thankfully we were able to get back into our garden pretty quickly. Let's see what happens if we talk to Jeff now. He just opens our chip menu. Okay, so that's everything with his quest line. There's also a new quest line for talking to the carpenter here. He says he found a blueprint laying around his house, and it's the greenhouse blueprint. I am going to need some enchanted baked potatoes, so let's call Centauri. And there we go, greenhouse blueprint right here. This blueprint depicts some sort of greenhouse structure. Maybe Sam will find some use of it. So there we go, greenhouse blueprint. If we give this to Sam, who is right here, and it's already telling us we're gonna have to collect some resources. So let's just go ahead and preemptively call Centauri. 64 enchanted oak logs and 128 enchanted sand. Okay, I was wondering why these were in here. So let's bring this to her. And then we need to go over to the desk and put the greenhouse somewhere. So we're gonna put it right here. Let's see, convert to greenhouse. There we go. And I believe you can actually configure multiple plots to hold greenhouses, which is pretty interesting. But at the starter level, you only get one. Maybe as we level up our greenhouse, we can get more. But based on what some other items were saying, it seems like you can have multiple. So there's the greenhouse. At least this is the main building part of it. We can't get into it yet, but there is one big thing while this is finishing pacing that I haven't gone over yet, and that is Helianthus, or however it's pronounced. This is the condensed version. There is actually the base version of it right here. But if we look at Fermento gear, when farming wild rose, sunflowers, and moonflowers, you have a 0.003% chance of dropping a Helianthus. And you will need 9 of them to make one of these. And once you have these, you'll need 2 of them for each one of these armor upgrades. And this is the new best farming set. Fermento now has an upgraded version. So base Fermento has 30 farming fortune. Not to mention, it is now epic rarity. So the Helianthus boots are now legendary, and they have a base of 70 farming fortune. So just this alone is a pretty big deal. 40 farming fortune boost per piece is kind of crazy, which for some reason it's not actually showing a increase here for Fermento to Helianthus. I don't know what the deal with that is. Only the boots are showing, and that might just be because I'm not actually wearing the boots. Actually, the helmet has an increase too. Okay, so maybe the chest plate and the leggings are just the same, but that would be kind of strange. If I swap out of the armor set, does it change? No, it does not. I don't know what the deal with that is. Maybe that's a bug as well. There seems to be a lot of number bugs going on, but who knows? Well, let's check out the drip. This is the Fermento set, and this is the Helianthus set. It looks a little bit wild, I'm not gonna lie. The helmet's a little bit blocky, I would say, maybe, but it is definitely a sunflower based set. Like, you can tell it's made out of sunflowers. That is kind of a large part of the recipe. But now that our greenhouse is done, we can go inside and talk to Sam, and she wants to plant our first crop, which is a carrot. So we're just going to grab our hoe of great tilling here, clear everything out, and put in the carrot. We'll say here in the middle. Crops need water to grow. Use this watering can to water the plot. So we have the hydro can now, which has water. You will have to refill it by looking at blocks of water, but you can hold right click and aim in the direction of a plant to water it. So this one you can see has no water based on the health above it there. So if we just hold down right click, we can see the water amount going up. And then once it's full, it will get green particles and we're done. And you can already see it growing pretty quickly, and it's fully grown. Should be able to harvest it now. So let's grab it. Then she gave us some seeds. Plant wheat side by side. Because now that you're familiar with the basics, let's move on to more advanced techniques. Plant crops in your greenhouse, or planted crops in your greenhouse apply buffs and debuffs to nearby crops. So let's go ahead and water this one real quick. Okay, now that one's done. Let's try this one. And then we have our plant diagnostics tool, which I already grabbed earlier, but here's another one. So we right click here and we can see wheat is the base crop. It is at growth stage 1 out of 8. It will reach the next stage in an hour. It's at full water, increases the yield of nearby crops by plus 20%. And since they are next to each other, they both have the effect. So one is applying the effect to the other and vice versa. And it is currently growing. So we can actually see a lot with this device. But we also have this greenhouse clock, which advances the time of all greenhouses in our garden. So we could speed things up real quick, but she's actually telling us about mutation. When you grow certain crops next to each other, a mutation could eventually sprout nearby. This doesn't always need to be on dirt. There's lots of mutations that exist, and they're quite interesting to discover. However, I really only know how to spread one of them. From what I remember, all you need to do is surround an empty space of farmland with 4 wheat crops. Okay, in a plus shape. All right. So let's do here, here, and here. And she watered them too, so they'll grow strong and healthy. All right, so once all these crops are grown, we get this. I don't think that's supposed to look like a player head, but that's what it looks like. Harvest the mutation. So let's just grab this. We got ethereal vine and dust grain, and that was a rare drop, was the ethereal vine. And I don't know if that went into sacks, I guess, because I did not see it. Maybe it went into the garden sack. Yeah, there it is. So ethereal vine, we have this. We right click this on this block. We used it to free the rooted space, unlocking a new planting slot. So we can use these ethereal vines to unlock new areas to put crops into, which is pretty cool. But let's go ahead and talk to the carpenter, see what's going on here. Talk to him anytime to see your greenhouse mutation progress. So if we talk to him, we can see just the crop guide. So the size of each crop, which these are all 1x1s, and also the effects they apply. So wheat increases yield, but some crops could have negative effects. For example, netherwort, which reduces farming XP of adjacent crops. Mushrooms cause water drain, reducing watering status of nearby crops, but it increases yield by 30%. Mutations have a chance to spread, which we knew earlier, and we can actually click this and see all of the different spreading conditions. So we don't actually have a lot of these unlocked. You can see some of them grow on soul sand, some on farmland, some on regular sand. So I guess, can we actually just, yeah, you can dig up the dirt, so we can replace it with soul sand for netherwort, which is pretty interesting. So it doesn't have to just be wheat and things that we plant here. We can plant netherwort. But yeah, you can see there's this whole page and then another section full of different things. And this one has endstone. So perhaps we can actually grow coarse fruit here. And that is the time stalk, which I guess was probably what attracts that one Beastiary mob, the time stalk clone. But there is this new sundial item, which I do want to talk about real quick. Gift this item to Sam to permanently unlock plot speed settings on your garden. And this is a recipe. You'll need chloronite, which you need to complete Beth's quest line to analyze this crop. So Beth has a new quest line in addition to Jake's plushie. There's more things you can do afterwards. But you also need sunflower collection level 7 to unlock this. But if we bring this over to Sam real quick, we have unlocked additional speed settings for our garden plots, and we can modify our maximum speed in the desk while configuring plots. So if we do /desk, we can go in here and we can just right click to, or not right click, we can left click, and now we can modify the plot speed. So you don't have to wear rancher's boots to change your speed in a certain plot. You can actually just set your speed, and depending on the plot and the angle, the crop, you know, you can change your speed to whatever it needs to be here instead of changing it on your rancher's boots. So you won't have to be constantly changing your rancher's boots speed. You can just use the new Helios, or whatever it's called, what is it, Helianthus boots the whole time, since they are actually, you know, giving more farming fortune and everything. And you don't have to worry about swapping your rancher boot speed if you swap between different crops. Almost forgot. The Crow Pet. This is the legendary version. So at rare tier, it unlocks camouflage. After casting an ability, increases your defense for 20 seconds. And Insightful gives a 3.1% chance to not consume mana when using an ability. So this is just it at level 1 legendary. We go ahead and equip it. I did manage to get some Kime here, so we're going to level it real quick. Let's just make sure to duplicate this before we go too crazy. Let's actually just duplicate the pet too, so we can see exactly the difference. Okay, there we go. I've been feeding this bozo for ages, but here we can finally see the difference. So this is the level 100 crow. It gives 150 intelligence, 20 ability damage, lowers the cooldown of abilities by 15%, plus 20 defense for 20 seconds, capped at 500, and 15% chance to not consume mana. So there is the difference between the tier 1 and the tier 100, or level 1 and level 100. And I did also forget, there is a button in Centauri that lets you unlock all the collections, so we're going to go through that real quick. So there's the Enchanted Wild Rose, which of course is just the enchanted version of Wild Roses. There's Thorny Vines, which can be placed in flower minions to make them produce wild roses exclusively. There's also the Plot Eraser, which you can instantly clean a plot. There's the compacted version of Wild Roses. There's extra farming XP, and the Rosewater Flask, which consume to grow crops within the greenhouse by several growth stages. Keep this item in your inventory to increase the bonus up to 6 growth stages, at which point the item evolves. And yes, it is a consumable. I'm not sure exactly what it gives once it gets up to the max level, but you can eat up to 5 of them and they give 2 SkyBlock XP each, so I imagine it's probably something along the lines of extra farming fortune or maybe pest bonus, but that's what wriggling larva gives, so who knows. There's also the Bachelor's Rose, so it isn't actually just obtainable in alpha, it is an item that you'll be able to get. It requires compact roses and poppies be able to make, so you can invite specific NPCs to visit your island. There's also the Prickly Kiss, which you'll need 3,000 of them to get plus 12 wild rose fortune from Carolyn, and they just require some enchanted wild roses. Not too expensive, but considering you'll need 3,000 of them, you're going to need 15,000 enchanted wild roses, so good luck with that. There's also Sunflower, of course, where you'll need enchanted sunflowers. There's also the Sunflower Minion that you can get here, which does go all the way up to tier 12. You'll have to get the tier 12 from the desk in the garden, the SkyMart area there, but yes, you can craft this new minion. There's also the Sunflower Head, which you can make. Spreads happiness with a sparkle at a time. Very nice. There's also the Day Switch, which can be placed in a sunflower to make it exclusively produce sunflowers. So apparently it does sunflowers or moonflowers. And in order to get the Moonflower one, you'll have to find that in the Moonflower collection. There's also sunflower oil, which you can make to get fuel in refuelable machines. So this will be really nice for Iron Man players, 100%. Be able to get infinite fuel out of this. Also Sunstone, which applies the Sunny Reforge when combined with armor, so you can get some farming wisdom that way. The Sundial, which we talked about earlier, to get the infinite plot speed unlocked. And the Sunshine Crystal, which is an upgraded version of the Day Crystal that gives strength and defense during the day. And then there's the Moonflower collection, which has the Night Switch as well as the Day Switch, which was in Sunflower collection. So this is the opposite, which will make sunflower minions produce moonflowers only. This is also how you craft the crow as well, is in this collection right here. The compacted moonflower, of course. You don't get anything for tier 5, which is interesting, not even any farming XP. Floor 6 or section 6, you get the Lunar Reforge, which is just a worse version of the Sunny Reforge apparently. And then for Moonflower 7, you unlock Crop Fever, which is a brand new ultimate enchant for axes and hoes. When breaking crop, there's a chance to trigger Crop Fever. When it triggers, you'll roll additional crops for 60 seconds with a 15% increased chance of rare drops and 100 bonus farming fortune. To craft this book, you're going to need a ton of compacted moonflowers and a jukebox. And of course, I imagine it does go up to some pretty high tiers. Let's double check, see how it goes for ult enchants. Crop Fever does go up to level 5, so there you have it. And finally, at level 8, you unlock the Moonlight Crystal, which again is the upgraded version of the Night Crystal. You'll need some compacted moonflowers for that. And I did actually get a picture here of the Rose Dragon pet at level 200. Now, there are a couple versions of perks floating around. I think this is the real one, so take it with a grain of salt, because it could be fabricated. But if these are the real perks, it's looking pretty cool. You get 300 farming fortune. It adds 100 strength to all your axes and hoes while in the garden, which I guess is supposed to help with, I don't even know what, because you're not going to be using Mushroom Cow for using this, so who knows? Maybe it's with the new Beastiaries, you need some strength, but they only die to farming tools, similar to how the Glaciite Walkers are with drills and pickaxes. But then there's also Mossy Scales, grants farming fortune and strength for every digit in your Wild Rose collection. You gain farming fortune per every 20 strength. Okay, well there you go. That's why the strength matters. So it's basically the same as the Mushroom Cow perk, but it's now on the Rose Dragon. There's also bountiful rewards, gain extra farming fortune for every garden milestone for any crop. And it's a percentage, by the way. So it's not just 0.01 farming fortune, it's plus 0.01%. And it apparently maxes at 11.96% per crop. There's also symbiosis. If you own a level 200 Rose Dragon, grants extra farming fortune for every other unique maxed farming pet that you own, which I believe is the same as the Jade Dragon pet. So pretty cool stuff. Again, take it with a grain of salt. Hopefully this is the real version, but I'm not 100% sure. But that is everything with the greenhouse update for garden. So again, this is the alpha. There's plenty bound to change, but let me know what you think in the comments. And while you're down there, make sure to subscribe. We're closing in on 30k subs, and I will be making guides on this once it drops on the main server, and just keeping you up to date with everything you need to know. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. God bless.